Welcome to the Life Engineering Podcast. My name is Gabriela Embon, former chemical engineer, relationship coach, and author. In each episode, we'll uncover the wisdom, strategies, and tools to help you build thriving relationships and purpose-driven careers. My wish is that something shared in this space touches your heart, brings clarity, or gently guides you toward what you need most in your life right now. Thank you for being here. Let's begin now. Welcome back to the Life Engineering Podcast. I'm your host, Gabriela Embon, and today we're doing things a little differently. We are not just going to have a conversation about success, but this is going to be beyond. This is going to be about principles, practices, and personal philosophies that shape a life of no regrets. My guest today is someone whose wisdom spans 4 decades, 4 companies, and 4 best-selling books. John is a legacy builder, a lifelong athlete, and someone who understands that the path to greatness begins within. John, welcome to the show. I'm so excited to share this space with you.
Well, thank you so much for the invitation, Gabriela. Really appreciate it, and can't wait to get into lots of good stuff, hopefully, that your audience will respond to.
Me too. And I'm going to read your bio so our audience learns more about you, okay? I know this sometimes feels uncomfortable because there's a lot to say about you, you know? John has been a top earner in 4 network marketing companies in a 42-year career. He holds the distinction of being the first President's Cup recipient for one company, as well as being the Dr. Bonus Award recipient for a second company. He has also consulted for several of the top brands in the industry and worked alongside owners, top earners, as well as product formulators. John has written 4 books, Moving Up Volume 1, Volume 2, Moving Up 2020, as well as Leave Nothing to Chance. These last 2 books were Amazon bestsellers. He's hosting the Leaving Nothing to Chance podcast for the last 5 years and interviewed many of the top luminaries in the direct selling industry. This includes the last protege of Napoleon Hill, the current marketers for Og Mandino, as well as many of the top earners in the industry. Some of these industry icons date back to 1960s, like Og Mandino, right? Where the current MLM industry had much of its design and growth. On a personal side, he has earned black belt in judo and BJJ, and as well as participating in wrestling sambo, which is a Russian wrestling, earlier in life. In his late years, he participated in many bench press competitions. He doesn't believe, and I attest for that because I'm looking at him, he doesn't believe age should keep one out of athletics. Along with his French-Canadian wife, Josée, they have 4 children. John is also a dog lover. He's a guy who believes in health and maintains a vegan diet and eats mostly raw foods these days. And you won't believe it, but he lives in Texas, so that is a challenge on its own. He's also a huge fan of Wim Hof and goes in the cold daily. He has licenses in the insurance industry, as many people asking his opinions on financial matters. Many years ago, he created a program for debt reduction that many companies copy. Wow. This is beyond the resume, John. You've been a top earner in 4 network marketing companies, an author, a podcast host, a voice of legacy in this space. However, I want to start with something simple and human. What's been on your heart lately?
Wow, great question. And I just got tired listening to all the stuff I've done, but I'm not done yet. I'm actually going to hot yoga this afternoon, believe it or not. 125-degree yoga is something new that I'm going to be doing because my joints, for all the years of judo in particular, my joints are pretty beat up. Had a lot of surgeries. So that would be one thing. Is I think, especially as we get older, I'm 64 now. So as we get older, we need new challenges. We need new things to try. Doesn't mean we have to do them for the rest of our lives necessarily, but we have to be open to doing
Yeah.
new things, creative things, be they physical, like something like hot yoga, for example, be they something mental, like learning AI, which I've been a student of for the last year. I'm far from an expert, but I'm learning a lot about it. Learning a lot about clip farming, which is a way to get not only my podcast out there, but my different products that I work with out there. So I think to keep life interesting, you've got to evolve with it. You got to go forward every single day. The world is changing. The world is getting more interesting, I think, than it's ever been. So I'm far from retiring. I have people say to me all the time because I've got friends that are retired. I've got other friends that are in the process of it, and I got other friends that are considering it. And they're like, "Well, when are you going to retire?" I'm like, "Well, first of all, I work for myself. So unless I want to fire myself, that's probably not a good idea." Uh, Secondly, though, I am money motivated, but that's never been my big thing. To be honest with you, I've always been more motivated by the mission, the outcome. How do I take, what Jim Rohn used to say: seed, soil, sunshine, rain, miracle of life. How do I take that and make it come to life? Whether that's building a sales organization, which I've built 4 massive ones in my career, whether that's coaching other people to do better with their organization, be they in network marketing or be they in traditional business. How can I give back with all this knowledge that I've accumulated in all of these years of doing the different stuff that I've done? So that's kind of where I'm at. So what's on my heart right now is new things, always new things. Continue to develop the existing things, but add some new things to it, and frankly, delete the odd thing here and there that maybe isn't serving me well.
You know, I'm listening to you, and when you said money was never the main thing, I so believe you, because I think that if that was the only motivation, and it's a great motivation, but if it's the only motivation, I think we have a problem. That's when success becomes empty. But I believe when you say it wasn't for you, because there's a lot of wholeness in your story, in your life, right? Whether it's your diet, the way you take care of your body, your mindset. And we were connecting before, a couple of weeks ago, when we were chatting about this conversation, and you shared the different places you lived, and you know here in Quebec, in Montreal. So I could see how your sole focus was never money, but really create a life of wholeness in every aspect of your life.
Well, thank you for saying that, and that's really what it's been. It's been the experiences too. The countries we've been to, the places that we've lived. I mean, we've mostly lived in Dallas the last number of years. We lived in Canada for a brief period of time when my son was playing hockey up there, and of course, way back when Josée and I first met. We lived in where did we live? Turbonne, Quebec, up by Laval, and but we've been all over the world. We got friends all over the world. We've got contacts all over the world. So that to me is, especially as you get older, those are the things that you look back on that you appreciate more than how many dollars you have in your bank account. And that's important too. But don't get me wrong. But at the end of the day, it's not the primary thing. And if that's your primary thing, life's pretty boring, I think.
Yeah, yeah. And that's what creating a life of no regrets for me is all about, right? Yeah, making sure you lead also with your heart. So here's the thing: you lived a very principled life, black belt in martial arts, raw vegan living, cold immersions, which living in Canada, I'm like, why? Okay. Authorship, leadership, it's quite rare. Where does your discipline come from? And what do you think shaped that inner fire in you?
Wow, great question. First of all, it was the desire for better health. Uh,
Okay.
I was not a healthy child. I was born knock-kneed and pigeon-toed, which basically meant my legs were kind of like this.
Okay.
I had to wear braces to straighten them out every night, like these little shoes with a bar on them to straighten my legs till I was 8 years old. And then in high school, I was playing football in high school. I got hit in the back, and they diagnosed me with a disease called spondylolisthesis, where my vertebrae were wrapped around each other like this. They were choking off the nerves in my right side. So I had to have major spinal cord surgery. I turned 17. 5 days later, I had this major surgery, and I couldn't walk for 6 months. I spent 6 months in a wheelchair. And, when you aren't blessed with good health, so many people take their health for granted. You seek alternatives, okay? Whether it's herbs, whether it's vitamins, whether it's yoga, whether it's weightlifting, resistance training, cold water therapy. Wim Hof has made that famous. He didn't invent it, but he sort of has made it famous. You start to seek all of these other remedies to make yourself feel better. Now, some people go the other direction. They seek alcohol or drugs. Those are the wrong things to seek. Always seek health. One of my idols growing up, and he still is, he's deceased now, but Jack LaLanne used to have a great statement, Gabriela, and it was this: nutrition is king, exercise is queen, put them together, you build a kingdom.
Oh, that's powerful.
So at
Just
20,
say that again. Nutrition is
yeah,
king.
nutrition is king, exercise is queen. When you put them together, you build a kingdom.
I love that.
And when I look at some of my mentors in the health space, be they Jack LaLanne, be they Jay Kordich, Jay the Juice Man Kordich, for example. Well, both of them are deceased. They both made it into their 90s, and they were reasonably healthy to the end of their lives. Currently, people like Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn, Dr. Colin Campbell, two guys who are in their 90s who are still traveling the world, giving lectures, both healthy as can be. Um, those are the people I emulate. Those are the people I look up to. Those are the people that I say, hey, I want to be like them, not only now, but I want to be like them when I get older. So I look at people who are really healthy and I say, what are they doing personally? Not what are they talking about or selling, but what are they doing personally? What are they taking? How are they eating? How are they exercising? And by the way, all of those people I mentioned and a lot more are extremely disciplined people. So I got my discipline from watching people that had discipline and had great health outcomes over the course of time. So that's what I've really done. And believe me, I've got my aches and pains. I've had a lot of surgeries over the years: shoulder, hips, fingers, wrists. I mean, all sorts of stuff. Well, that was all from sports. I did that. I did most of those things to myself. But because of that, I've always looked at how can I be healthier. And I know, like, you can't be healthier eating a bunch of junk food, for example. You can't be healthy eating stuff you shouldn't eat. You can't be healthy not getting your rest. You can't be healthy, going to the bar and having a few drinks after work. I mean, those things are not for your health. That doesn't mean you shouldn't do them. If you want to do them, do them. But I just chose not to. My very last drink in my life, I was on I turned 20. Dad turned 20. I looked at my father, and my father was in his early 50s at that point, and he was already very sick. He'd already had a heart aneurysm. He had other health conditions. He died a few years later of pancreatic cancer. And I looked at him, and he had smoked 4 packs a day, by the way, of cigarettes, and drank heavily. He was an alcoholic. He was dry. To his credit, at that point, he was dry through the grace of God and through AA. But nonetheless, the damage was done. And I looked at him, and I said, I don't want to be that guy.
I was going to ask you exactly that question. Um, the way you grew up, your parents, what kind of example they were for you, either to what to do or what not to do.
Well, that's what's funny. My mother, now I don't even know why my parents liked each other outside of the fact they were both very into music. They were singers. So they met singing. They were in a show together. And because they loved singing, and they were both religious people, they loved church. So they did a lot of church singing and that sort of thing together. But my dad was an alcoholic, and he died young, alcoholic and smoker. My mother was the reverse. She
Hmm.
drank. She never smoked. She made it to 92, and she was pretty healthy. Her 90th birthday, she had moved here to Dallas from New Jersey. Her 90th birthday, we actually were able to take her out to a nice restaurant, have a nice meal. She still had her faculties. She still could have a good conversation. By 92, some of that went away, and she did pass away. But, you know, success leaves clues in everything, whether it's business, whether it's in health, right? I watched my mom not drink, not smoke, and live a long life. Her sister just passed away last year at 94, I think she was. Same thing, was not a drinker or smoker. And I had another uncle who made it to 101. He was not a blood uncle. He was related to us by marriage. But I remember as a little kid, we were looking outside together and we were talking. And he was already pretty old at that point. And I said, Uncle Bill, what's your secret? He said, I never drank, I never smoked, and I ate fiber every single day. He ate fruit every single day. He ate, a couple apples and other things. So, once again, is it a guarantee? No, there's no guarantees in life. You could do all that and walk in the street and get run over by a truck, right? But at the end of the day, if you want the best health outcomes, study nutrition, study exercise, and do it. And by the way, you don't have to go and kill yourself. People think you got to go run a marathon to be healthy. Most people are crazy. Okay, you don't have to do any of that. But get yourself about 45 minutes a day to do something that you enjoy doing. Whether it's walking, whether it's going to the gym, whether it's playing tennis, or now this new game.
Yeah, pickable.
Pickleball. Everybody's playing pickleball. Like, find something you like to do. Golf. Yeah, you find something. Cut your lawn, garden. I mean, all those things are moving the body. The other thing I study a lot is the work that Dan Buettner has done with National Geographic and the Blue Zones. And one of the things that Dan has researched in places like Greece, for example, and Costa Rica, the Seventh Day Adventist group out in California, I'm forgetting the others, but one of the things that Dan has written about over these last 30 years has been the fact these are not necessarily people going to the gym. They don't have gyms. But what do? They're farmers. They go out and they do farmers walks because they got to feed their livestock, for example, or they garden or they farm. They move their body, right? The Amish people in Pennsylvania and Ohio, for example, here in the U.S. As a matter of fact, I think in Ontario you get a lot of people that are Amish also. Extremely healthy people. They move their bodies every single day because they have to. I mean, it's not that they necessarily even want to. It's that, hey, if I'm taking care of a farm, I got to feed the animals. They 365 days a year they need to eat. For example, well, you need to feed them. So, point being, success leaves clues, and that's all I've done. Is I've just studied all of these things. I don't do anything crazy, quite honestly. I just kind of follow what people do, but I know I got to move my body every single day. I know I got to keep away from processed food. Here's another thing I found. If you look at old movies, okay, like movies out of the 1940s, 50s, and 60s, you generally don't see actors overweight. There's the odd one that you might see a little overweight, but for the most part, you don't see overweight people, male or female. Now, why is that? There was no processed food. When they ate, they ate. If they ate a steak, they ate a steak. If they ate an apple, it fell off the tree. It didn't go through a conveyor belt. Okay, for example. So when you look at that, and this is just me talking, I don't have any scientific evidence to back this up, but my logic is that there was no processed food. When we started to process food and make these foods last weeks and weeks and weeks on store shelves in packages, was when we started to get sick. And if you look at some of the evidence on that from some of the diseases, they spiked, they went up.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. We were having a conversation actually with our kids during supper, and one of them said, "We are not a snack family, we're an ingredient based family."
Mm.
I said, "What do you mean, guys?" He says, "Well, snack family is those that you open the drawer and have so many snacks that are obviously store bought. We never had that. It's just real food. It's ingredient based food."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, they were discussing that, the children. They're not young adults, last teenagers at the end. So I resonate very much with you on this one. But what I pick from what you're saying is I know. You said a different, several times you said, I know. And it's not just you know, I think we all know. You actually do. And that's the difference. You know, you
I,
know with actions, not with intellect, with knowledge. You are a learner, but you also implement. And that's something I think to so important to mention because we are bombarded with information, but there's a big difference between information and actually doing what is required from us to live better, right?
well, and the other thing with that, Gabrielle, too, is what I do is not, in my opinion, it's not radical. Okay, I mean it's common sense type of stuff. I didn't
But
invent it.
common sense is rare.
Right, yeah, but follow the logic. I mean, if you get up in the morning, for example, and your meal is dead animals, eggs, bread, cheese, coffee, you're not fueling your body with stuff that's going to get you through the day. By lunch, you're starving. Why is that? Because you're not giving your body enough of the real foods, right? If you get up instead, for example, and you have fruit, your body likes the fruit, and then you eliminate better. You eliminate the things that your body says, I don't need this in my body. You eliminate them better. You feel better. You feel more energized, for example. So you don't get to 11:30 in the morning and say, oh my God, I'm going to eat my arm because I'm starving. It's like you got to give your body the right stuff. Now, it's not easy. And by the way, I was not brought up this way. I was brought up quite the opposite. But as I've gotten older, and I've gotten more into nutrition and I understand how to fuel the body, it's like, you got to get that fiber in you, number one. Find some fruit that you like. Okay, that's another thing. Like I don't like durian, for example. Durian's a fruit that I just don't. I can't eat it. I don't like it. And jackfruit, I'm so on. But I love things like watermelon, honeydew melon, cantaloupe, um, bananas. I think I'm a monkey deep down because I can eat bananas every single day, and on and on and on. And all those things help fuel the body. So I feel really good. So I get to 11 o'clock in the morning. I'm not looking for lunch. There's days when my wife has to remind me, like, hey, you're going to have something to eat this afternoon. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, there was a time in my life I was 90 pounds heavier. And I can
Okay.
assure you I wasn't eating fruits and vegetables. Okay, I was eating all that processed junk and the place with the big M in front of it. I used to love that place. Their little cheeseburgers. Well, look, it's not for longevity. You're not going to live a long life eating that kind of stuff. Does that mean people aren't going to eat it? No. But at the end of the day, give yourself a chance. Okay, you don't have to be radical. Just be smart. Give you one other study real quick that impressed me. There's a documentary called Forks Over Knives that was done by Dr. Esselstyn, Dr. Campbell, and some other folks a few years ago. And ironically, I saw it. I was at the gym, and I had gone vegetarian that same week. And I see this documentary being talked about on a talk show. And these three guys who were humongous guys, they were all obese. They come out and they're no longer obese. They look terrific. And the one guy references this documentary called Forks Over Knives. So I got home and I said to my wife, I said, let's I couldn't remember. I thought it was knives over forks. So I said, okay. So she goes, it's probably the other way. But anyway, so she found it. She's French Canadian and much smarter than me. So she found it on Netflix. And anyway, we watched it that night. And Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn, who I had never heard of at that point from the Cleveland Clinic, he referenced a study that was done between 1939 and 1945 in Norway. When the Nazis had come into Norway, they basically told the farmers, hey, we'll let you guys live, but we're going to take the livestock. You keep the livestock, the chickens and the cows and the pigs and all that. You keep that for us, okay, and we'll let you live. You can feed your family off of root vegetables. Well, what are root vegetables? Turnips, potatoes, carrots, beets, etc. Right? What you can grow in the ground, right? Roots. And between 1939 and 1945, they found that the heart disease and cancer rates that were about the same rate as the United States in 1939 dropped significantly in that population of people. 1945, right? The Germans go home. They get back to eating the chickens and the cows and the pigs and whatever, right back to where they were prior to that. So that's one study. Okay, maybe there's studies that would refute that. I don't know, but I heard that information,
Mm.
and I related to Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn not only because the Cleveland Clinic, not only because of his years as a physician, but he was also a heck of an athlete. The 1956 Olympic champion, okay, as well in rowing. I mean, I don't know if you ever met any rowers. I mean, these guys are like this, they're like these. I mean, they're in great shape. So I'm like, right, this guy's been an athlete, and he's talking about this particular study, and it just resonated with me. And the more I read, and the more I got into all of these different things that I read from Dr. Michael Greger eventually, and all these other people, there was a consistency to it without an agenda because nobody was trying to sell me anything. Okay, they were trying to sell me on a lifestyle that was better for me that they had found themselves, but nobody was trying to sell me a
That's
product.
powerful because you come from the world of selling. And you said this was powerful because nobody was trying to sell anything to me.
Exactly, exactly.
So, I mean, I have to ask you, isn't that what you were doing? And at the same time, we're looking to avoid?
Yes and no. I mean, I did I buy some of these guys' books? Yeah, they made $2 on a book or something, right? You and I can relate, right? Get rich selling books, So yeah, I'm sure they made a couple dollars in their royalties, but yeah, they weren't trying to sell me anything. There wasn't some expensive program to buy or anything. It was just kind of information, and I like research. Okay, I mean, what I do for a living, okay, comes from research. Okay, at McGill, and the evidence-based research that these guys were talking about was solid, and so I got in, I adopted it, and that doesn't mean once again all your listeners are going to go out and do that, but I took the bait, so to speak. I had already gone vegetarian, but I was what you call a junk vegetarian, which means I was still eating processed food on a regular basis. I was still eating everything but animals, okay, which was good. That was a step in the right direction. And that lasted until a year ago, January 1st, 2024. I decided, because I met a guy from your country, from Argentina. I shared with you last time. Now my good friend Fran Turk. And Fran was putting together a small group of people to go raw vegan. And he said, I'll coach you guys how to do it. And it was once again, nobody gets rich in that world, by the way. Selling fruits and vegetables, you're not going to make money. Okay, it was like $30 to join this group. And I said, sure, I'll $30, I'll get on a bunch of, calls like we're on right now and talk to this guy and see what he knows. And I did that, and it was a game changer for me. Not only did I lose weight, but my joints started to feel better.
Yeah.
And I said, wow, this is a game changer. So I adopted that lifestyle, and it's pretty radical at first, when you think, I'm going to eat a lot more fruit. Okay, and
Is
sometimes
your wife vegan too?
I'm sorry.
Is your wife vegan too?
No, no, no. That was one of the challenges. Is she goes back and forth. She knows she should be, uh, but she sometimes gives into the other angels, so to speak. And once in a while she eats meat, not a lot. Uh, and by the way, I'm not a person. I'm not going to tell anybody how to live their life. I'm just going to tell you what I've done that's helped me, okay, significantly. I'm not going to tell anybody that they got to do anything that they don't want to do. All I'm going to do is suggest, okay. I don't beat them over the head, whether it's with business, whether it's with nutrition. People are going to do what they're going to do. But this has worked well for me, and it continues to work well for me. So, for me, this is a lifelong thing. This morning I got up 5 o'clock, put my dogs out, watered my I got a vegetable garden I'm growing in the back, so I went out and watered. I came back in, and I ate a papaya. Okay, I had a whole papaya was my breakfast, and I take one supplement religiously, the product that I sell, Immunical. I take that for my immune system, and I was off to the gym, and I've been going strong ever since. And you know,
God bless you
it works.
with with lots of health and a long, long life of continuous health and impact. And I want to go. back to the impact, because I mean, you've been talking about how you're taking care of yourself, but I know that you also have a huge legacy of impact with companies. You help people earn more, grow companies, reduce debt. So, what's the transformation? When I think about all your legacy, what's the transformation that brings you the most fulfillment? The one that you can't put on a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
When you think about your career and what's ahead as well.
Well, what's behind in the 42 years, okay, is significant because I feel like I've educated a lot of people. And I'll give one for instance. I met a single mom way back in 1990, and she lived in Pittsburgh, and I helped to teach her my business. She became very successful at it. She was a single mom. She had a little boy who at that time was 4, and today she passed away unfortunately, but a couple years back. But her son is one of the top attorneys in Los Angeles.
Wow.
He's actually my personal attorney as well, and
That's
he went to great schools all the way around from being a little boy. He went to a good private school in Pittsburgh. He eventually went on to college, eventually law school, and he's got this great career going. And if I hadn't taught his mom the business, she could not have afforded at that point in her life. She could not have afforded to send him to those great schools. That he got this great education, and by the way, he's a good lawyer. He's he does some things pro bono and stuff that really interesting, good stuff. He's a good guy. And that's what makes me the most proud is when I meet some of my distributors and they say, I sent my kid to a great college because of what you taught me. I was
mm,
able to move out of a bad neighborhood to a safer neighborhood to raise my family in. Okay. It's not all, hey, I bought a great car or I bought a great house. It's more that people have safety and security and education. I'm very big on education, that they have great educations as a result. This past Saturday, I attended a wedding with one of my son's former teammates, who actually has become a good friend of mine, even though he's a lot younger than I am. He's 22 years old. And I've helped to mentor this boy since he's 14. His own dad's not a business guy. His dad's like my dad. Dad's in the trades, works hard. Okay, very respectful guy, but he couldn't teach him business. So at 14, this young man recognized, hey, Mr. Solleder's this business guy, and he's done all this stuff, and he's written books, and he gives lectures, and he's built these companies, and blah blah blah. And we became great friends. So his mom came up to me Saturday to thank me again for mentoring her son. And I said, well, he did the hard work. I didn't do anything. All I did was kind of help him make a few key decisions along the way that he was wrestling with in his academics, really more than anything else. And real proud of what he's done, and I'm real proud of what my own kids are doing as well. So really, it's to see people grow and achieve and make good decisions, and all I did maybe is set them on the right path, and maybe I gave their parents, okay, or them some skill sets that they needed, okay, and that's like moving up.
right. Don't give them the fish, teach them how to fish.
Yeah,
Yes.
this whole book's loaded, okay, with things for people who help you achieve more financially, for example, okay, things that I learned along the way. Simple concept, 10 penny principle. What is that? You put 10 pennies in your left pocket every time you talk to somebody about your product or your service. You put one in your right pocket. Well, if you do that, what does that become over time? Is it becomes a good habit, right? If it becomes a good habit, all of a sudden you apply it, whether you're selling in network marketing like I do, whether you're selling insurance like some of my friends do, whether you're selling real estate, automobiles, whatever it happens to be, it becomes a habit where every day you do it, and all of a sudden you do it automatically, like muscle memory. You just know you got to do it. You don't necessarily have to put 10 pennies in your left pocket after a period of time. Those little things are things that people come back to me and they say, I did that. For example, a lady named Karen Ford. She lives down in Virginia. I met Karen some 30 plus years ago. And I taught Karen some of these things. Karen is like the number one person at her company now. And if you ever talk to Karen, she'd say, well, John taught me these things when I was broke, and I applied them, and I raised my family. Our kids are all now grown, of course. But she said I applied them, and I taught other people them, and it's made me the number one distributor in my particular company. So that's what makes me proud. It's what other people did, not what I did. I mean, I've been well compensated financially. It's when I see other people take the information and apply it and make it their own, because their distributors don't know it came from me necessarily. They may tell them if somebody presses them, say, well, who mentored you, blah, 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 blah. But for the most part, it's to see them grow and see them achieve. It's just I just take a lot of pride in seeing that, frankly.
I absolutely can see that this is all about the ripple effect and the impact and the legacy that you're leaving. And I think today more than ever, young people need this type of mentorship. Um, you and your wife, I want to ask you something else, but alongside the same topic, because you and your wife, Josée, you have 4 children.
Mm-hmm.
And from what you're sharing with me, so much of your life has been built around values, right? So, how has your relationship with your wife shaped your leadership? And yeah, I'll ask you that and then ask you another question.
My well, besides my Lord and Savior, my wife's my rock.
Your wife is what?
My Lord and Savior's first, okay, Jesus Christ. But my wife is my second rock after her, okay, after him rather. Uh, Josée, we lost a child. One of our children passed away, unfortunately. Uh, eight,
Yeah.
eight, 8 months into pregnancy, and I still count her. I say I have 4 children, three are living, one is deceased. Alice is deceased. To watch her handle that, unbelievable.
Mm.
So I had such respect for her, watching her handle this horrible, horrible thing that happened to her and us, but it happened to her. It was her body, it's her, and I have total respect for her and love for her for what she went through. And we've gone through things with our other kids. Every kid, as you know, and then your listeners know that have kids. Every one of your kids is different, right? I mean, every one of them has different personalities, different challenges as they grow up. We've handled the challenges together. Has it been easy? No, not at all. But at the end of the day, she's been a fixture in my life, and she's probably my best friend too, which is kind of funny to think of that. Like we go for a walk every day together, and we talk because we've got multiple businesses. Frankly, we got our podcast and our books and insurance and Unitech, and I got a lot of stuff going on here. And she manages all of that. By the way, I do. I can't say I do nothing. I do a lot, but she does an equal amount on the other end. I could never coordinate everything that has to be coordinated, including our finances, making sure that our taxes are paid timely and all those things too. So, I mean, we have a real partnership, and
That's right. You are a team and you have a common vision. This is music to my ears. You know that I wrote a book about marriage, so hearing you speak about her that way, it's truly music to my ears.
yeah. But the other thing too is, frankly, as technology has evolved, because I'm almost 10 years older than her, she's much better at it than I am. So that's been a whole nother thing, is that we've said, hey, look, one of us needs to be the front person, that's me. One of us needs to be the back person, that's her, and understand some of these things, because on the surface I may understand them, but as you drill down, there's a lot involved. And a perfect example, and you use something like this. If you don't use this, Opus Clips. Opus Clips is something we use for our podcast now. Well, I understand
Yes.
what it does, but I have no idea how to use it. Where she's got into it, she understands it, she's taken the courses and blah blah blah. So it takes a team. You look at most couples. One of them is
That's
the person everybody
couple
knows, but
synergy.
it's
And
a
that's
team.
exactly the power couple synergy. The team synergy, so you can create so much more.
It definitely takes a team, and then we got a few people working for us now too, and she's involved with them with not only paying them, but also supervising them, making sure they get done the things that they need to get done. So it's really a support system. I mean, I may get the credit publicly, but believe me, we are 100% a team. And once again, you're going to find with most successful couples, one might be better known than the other in the marketplace, but at the end of the day, it takes two people to achieve anything.
Oh,
You know,
yes,
you,
yes, yes. You got me here. Absolutely, absolutely. Um, to wrap up things, I want to ask you one final question. Your podcast is called Leaving Nothing to Chance.
Mhm.
So, if you could leave one final lesson, just one, that embodies everything you stand for, what would you share with our audience?
Oof, wow, I could leave you a lot of things, but I would.
No, that's the problem with so much legacy.
Well,
It's a good problem to have.
I think because my other book, leave nothing to chance, and the podcast is leaving because somebody, a bank actually owned this title, so we were able to use it for the book, but the podcast. So you get to the podcast too by John Solleder on YouTube also. But let me leave it this way. Why was it called this? Okay, my
Okay,
my son was a hockey player. My daughter was a figure skater when they were young.
okay,
And within a very brief period of time, my daughter had competed in Kansas City, and we felt, and her coach, who was Olympic champion, by the way, her coach Natalia Mishkatunik, and so like her opinion is a little more valuable than mine, felt that she had won the competition. She skated great. Well, the judges didn't see it that way. She wound up, I forget, third or fourth. And like that same week, my son was in a hockey event here, trying out for a team, a travel team in Dallas, and he scored two goals. The one goal, the first goal he scored, the coach was out of the room. Second goal he scored, the coach had his back turned. He was having coffee and he was talking to somebody. They never saw my son score, and it come time to pick the boys for the team. He doesn't get picked. And he's about, I don't know, 8 years old at that time, 9 years old, little kid, 21 now. And I remember, both as an athlete and also somebody who mentors and deals with people, how do you react as a parent to these things is really important. I can be the crazy parent and I can go yell and scream at the coach or the officials. That's not going to be
okay. This is going to be, I can feel this is going to be a powerful value bomb you're going to throw at us.
not
Okay.
not going to serve you well long term. You might get it out of your system and feel better, but believe me, they're going to hold it against your kid, not you, but your kid. So I said, okay, let's not do that. So I went to a friend of mine who's a graphic artist, and I said, do me a favor, create a logo or a brand with the concept of leave nothing to chance. And he did. He came up with a guy looked like George Patton, and we actually printed shirts that I wore, my wife wore, and Fred and Grace wore under their uniforms. With the idea being, Fred, it's not your fault that the coach was out of the room when you scored. But if you had scored 4 goals, he would have seen you probably score at least one. And Grace, yes, you did everything that we thought you should do, and your coach thought you should do, and you thought you should do. But maybe you didn't smile to the judges, which is a big thing, believe it or not, especially in figure skating, because it's purely subjective, right? I mean, you're not being judged on did you score or not. You're being judged on.
Oh, I love this.
So the idea was this: whether it's in figure skating, whether it's in hockey, whether it's in academics, because you have to perform in the classroom, more important than sports, frankly. You have to perform in life. Leave nothing to chance. Be a constant student of what can I do better. For example, let me go back to sales for a minute because that's how I've made my living for 42 years. When somebody doesn't buy from me, I ask them sometimes, hey, what is it that made you not buy? Because I want them to tell me, you know what, John, you didn't comb your hair today. Your hair was sticking up. Which my hair does that, by the way. Or we don't like blonde guys. Or we don't like whatever. We wanted to buy from a woman. We didn't want to buy from a man. We wanted to buy from a younger person, not an older. Whatever it is, if I can fit. Now, I can't fix any of those things. I can't fix my sex or my age or my hair. Okay. But if they told me, hey, you showed up late, my time is valuable. We had an appointment at 12. You showed up at 12:15. I gave you to 12:45. Okay, so I gave you 45 minutes. You only took 30. Maybe you didn't express everything, but I told you I was limited on time. As an example. Okay, where all of a sudden you learn from that. Fast story, Gabrielle. I know we're at the end of the show. When I was selling life insurance for a short period of time in the 80s, I had a potential client in Philadelphia who ran a large soda bottling company. Very, very successful man. And it was a Monday morning, and I left my house in New Jersey 4 hours before the appointment thinking it's about a 2 hour drive. I got to the bridge that goes, if you ever been from New Jersey to Philadelphia, there's a bridge, the Ben Franklin Bridge. I got stuck on the bridge. Somebody had a accident, okay? The bridge, basically, I got stuck on. I got there, and I was that guy that was 15 minutes late for a 30-minute appointment. I got there, and I'm taking my stuff out of my bag. This is before laptops, by the way. I'm taking the illustrations out and everything to show this gentleman. And he says, he goes like this. He says, you can stop. Oh, are you ready to buy? No. You're ready to leave. Did I say something wrong? He goes, no. I gave you a half hour for this meeting. Now, I'm young. I'm in my 20s. I start making the excuses. By the way, they weren't excuses. It was legit. I left plenty early. I got stuck on the bridge. He said, and he taught me a great lesson. He said, if I was important to you as a potential client, John, you would have come down last night, stayed in a hotel, spent the money to make sure you were on time. My time was valuable. I got a big company to run out there, and I got somebody else sitting in my office, okay, on a half hour. It was an 8 o'clock appointment. At 8:30 at his next appointment. It was like already 8:15 or so when I got into his office. And it taught me a valuable lesson about being on time and respecting other people's time. I can't tell you I've never been late for an appointment. I have been. Sometimes things happen. But for the most part, I run on what they call Lombardi time. Vince Lombardi ran on this time where if you played for the Green Bay Packers in the 1960s, okay, 10 minutes to the hour. If the meeting started at 8, you were there at 10 to 8 because that's when the meeting started. If you were there past 10 of 8, you were late. And I've kind of done the same thing where it's like, hey, I want to be on time. It doesn't mean my client's going to be on time. It doesn't mean my prospect's going to be on time, but I'm going to be there as best I possibly can because I want to respect that other person because how they may deem that me being late for the appointment is I'm being disrespectful to them, okay? And I learned that valuable lesson. That's something I've preached about to people around the world, frankly, is just try to be on time. Yeah, you could get a flat tire. Those things happen. But man, pick up the cell phone and call the person. Text them, let them know. Wow, I got a flat tire. Let them know. Don't just sit there. So anyway, that's one of many things. But sometimes we learn more from our mistakes or failures than we do our successes. Right. So sometimes I'll just ask, what did I do wrong?
Absolutely. I want to thank you for these, specifically for this last point, because, you know, you share very powerful and inspiring conversations, but your story is all about, in my opinion, who we choose to become over and over again, and the values we're choosing to live by. And that's one thing that really struck me from our conversation together. So thank you very much for that.
Well, thank you, and continue to do the great work that you're doing. You're impacting people. You're making a difference in people's lives. Thank you so much for doing that. And I can't wait to interview you on our end. And
Yes,
and
yes.
yeah, because what you're doing, I mean, for couples, I mean, like we're in a weird time in history. I mean, people need as much help as they can possibly get. So thank you for being you as well, my friend.
Thank you, John. Please share with our audience where they can find you, your services, and all the beautiful work you do.
Uh, you can go to our podcast on YouTube. It's either Leaving Nothing to Chance or John Solleder, either one, Solleder. JohnSolleder.com is my website. It's got some information on there. And if you're interested in a side hustle business and you say, hey, let me find out a little bit about what you do with your company, And let me make this offer too. I do this, and my company's probably not happy I do this, but I'll do it anyway. I'm going to give people my phone number. Okay, send
Okay.
me a text. And if you're not interested in our business, okay, because I do coach and work with people in other companies, not everybody likes what we do. Okay, if you like what we do, great, do it with me, obviously. But if you don't like it, once again, and you're looking because I want to help people, I'll refer you to somebody. So if you like skincare, or you like legal services, or you like weight loss products or whatever, like I probably know somebody that can coach you in that business and do a good job for you as well. Okay, so come through me. Just send me a text at 972 area code 259-0875. Please text. Don't call me. I generally don't take phone calls unless I know who they're coming from because I get a lot of spam calls like everybody does today. Just send me, say, hey, heard you on Gabriela's show or podcast or info or whatever, and I will answer you back personally. That's my personal cell phone. I know some people say I'm crazy to give out my personal cell phone number because you get all kinds of stuff, but if I know it's from a legitimate person from your show, Gabriela, that's looking for something, I will certainly answer you back and give you a straight answer. You know what we do, what we don't do, how you make money, how you don't make money, and you know you'll have all the information very transparently.
Well, thank you so much for your openness and your generosity. I have never had a guest share their phone numbers, so this says so much about the your intentions, where you're coming from. Thank you so much, John, and thanks again for tuning in. Remember, our leadership begins with our own alignment, so go slow enough to hear your own wisdom. Until next time, keep engineering a life of impact and a life of no regrets. Bye for now.